The views and opinions that are expressed in this and future podcasts are not the views coming out of the State Office of African American Affairs and are not the views coming out of any other state agency, including the governor's office.
I'm Danny Golden.
And I'm Devin Williams.
And this is Re-Educated, a podcast brought to you by the New Mexico State Office of African American Affairs.
The purpose of the podcast is to educate the community on environmental, social, and physical inequities and challenges that Black communities must deal with, and what can be done to empower the Black community to help them navigate through the understanding of legislation and policy on a micro and macro level.
Welcome, everybody, to Re-Educated. This is our 8th episode of this podcast with the New Mexico State Office of African American Affairs. Re-Educated has been such a journey for us, so we're so grateful for everybody who's joined us on the journey. And it's just been a beautiful time, a beautiful experience. I thank you, Devin. It's been great.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I definitely couldn't have done it without you, as well as Marcus and Better Sense Studio, and also the different interns that we had in Brianna Edie and Reagan Ruffin. And so it definitely was a team effort, which I feel like we had some amazing content, some amazing guests on board, amazing sponsors who got us here in the first place. And so I really think, again, it's a group effort and we all had a pivotal part to play in getting this thing going.
Absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work. And we've experienced just that. It's been like a dream. It flew by, but I really am just holding on to all of those moments. Like you said, all the beautiful conversations and connections that we've made, and really just getting to highlight some special people who are doing hard work in the community to really push us forward and elevate us as a community. So I'm so incredibly grateful for that. And I'm excited for this episode, especially because it's something that's like near and dear to my heart. And I know to Devin's as well. And so we're going to be actually talking about the Crown Act and widening protections for folks who wear their natural hair in whatever space that may be, whether it's the workplace or in school or just in your everyday life. We know that we face both microaggressions and overt discrimination against us for the natural way that our hair grows. So we're going to get into that. And we're actually doing a special edition on Zoom, which is fitting for the times. I think we've all kind of become accustomed to this weird little technological world. But before we bring in our guests on Zoom, we want to take this time to appreciate our sponsors. So we're going to take a little break a little earlier than we usually do, and we'll hear from our sponsors. And then when we come back, we'll introduce our new friends who are pushing forward the Crown Act. So stay with us.
Since 1912, Loveless Health System has been committed to meeting the growing healthcare needs of the Albuquerque community. They're invested in bringing people, providers, and technology together to ensure patients receive the best care possible. The vision of African American Student Services, AFRO, is to cultivate Black excellence on the university campus through educational discourse, leadership development, holistic health, wellness practice, and community engagement. The African American Student Services program at UNM provides culturally relevant programs designed to assist primarily African American Black students in making a confident transition and successful adjustment to the University of New Mexico.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank y'all for supporting Re-Educated. Thank you so much to our sponsors, which we just heard from. And just like I was saying before we went into that little break, today on Re-Educated, we're going to be jumping into the Crown Act, something that Devin and I both feel very passionate about, is expanding protections for people who want to wear their natural hair. Unfortunately, even though it's 2020, we're still seeing so many instances in schools, in the workplace, in public spaces where natural hair is just not accepted, and it's not it's frowned upon. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I wouldn't even say it's just not accepted. It's actually actively discriminated against. You know what I mean? And I know I've definitely had some personal experiences with this from the time that I was very young. I mean, I can remember being, you know, in elementary, middle school, and hearing comments about my hair and feeling like the way my natural hair grew out of my head was just not acceptable, you know, or
Yeah.
being made to feel that way by the people around me in different settings. So, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that, Dev.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just growing up, I was in certain spaces that didn't have a high representation of Black people, and so I had people wanting to touch my hair, people making fun of it just because it was different than theirs, all these different things. And as I got older and I started to learn more, and eventually ended up getting a more protective hairstyle and twist, then we came to a space to where now people feared me a little bit more. People had more of a um, like a tendency to be enclosed or to distance themselves just because you see a Black man with dreads, you know,
Yeah.
society makes it that they're a thug, they're all these different things, they're not educated.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't necessarily have those experiences where I got kicked out of school or fired, but it was more so just not having protection from other peers that had different hair and not really having that support.
Right, because of the stigmatization of
Mm-hmm.
our hair. It's not always that there's, like I was saying before, an overt rule or law or anything like that against our hair. It's just that all of the stigmas that have been attached. You know, our hair is unprofessional, it's unruly, it's dirty. Even we've seen several celebrities in different situations have to walk back comments about, you know, uh, individuals that are wearing locks or, you know, braids or things like that. I've definitely had to check some people in certain situations
Mm-hmm.
and educate people. Sometimes it is just like a lack of knowing, like if you're not around Black people and
Yeah.
you're unfamiliar completely with Black hair,
Mm-hmm.
then I can see how that, you know, comes up. You're just curious, you know, that's
Yeah.
where the whole wanting to touch it and asking all the, you know, little questions and, oh, it's surprisingly soft, you know,
Yeah.
but, and it's an ignorance thing, but there comes a point where, you know, like we say, you got to educate yourself. And that is the act of compassion and acceptance, through you educating yourself so that you don't come at somebody with natural hair a
Yeah.
certain way. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I think, you know, we are in 2020. We have so many access to different resources. I understand there's certain times where you can't necessarily have access to certain information, and there's so many things into really seeing what information is credible. But at least attempt to do your own research. Google it if you need to. You know, look at
Yeah.
different YouTube videos, look at different websites, look at different social media pages. There's so much information
Yeah.
when it comes to Black hair that it's no excuse to continue to be very ignorant or, you know, refusing to want to do your own research.
Right. Because, yeah, I was just going to say that's what leads, that lack of educating yourself is what leads to the situations that we see in the workplace. Because Billy Bob, that was in 6th grade, talking about my hair and the texture of it, and it's poofy this and it's that, is gonna maybe become an HR manager at a company somewhere, and now he's taken those views into his job, where he has the power to determine who gets the job, or who gets sent home. We've seen so many instances of that, of people being sent home from school and work, and so yeah, it's education's a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And so I know we have a lot of experience and a lot of different things and perspectives when it comes to these topics, but we also have our guests who are here that can provide us a little bit more enlightenment, not only on what the Crown Act is, but also providing a number of different experiences that they've been through, not only dealing with having certain hairstyles, but also in the advocacy of getting the Crown Act implemented.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to hear from people on a personal level that are doing their part to push this legislation forward, because I just think that's so powerful that you have like this experience, as a person of color, and it's something that impacts you on a deep level, you know what I mean? And for individuals to have the courage to go out there and try and create that change in this way is so admirable to me.
And so, hello, everybody.
Have some people in the waiting room.
We can go ahead and just get a little more informal now and just introduce everybody. How's everybody going? Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday, right?
Yeah. I think so. It better be.
Oh, hey, Erica.
Danny, hi, boo.
How are you, my love?
Okay, let me get my stuff. I'm trying to get my life together real quick. I will come on camera very shortly.
Okay, no worries. I just saw a familiar face. And
my goodness. This makes my heart. Can we add you to the gang? I mean, that's not an appropriate way to say that. I'll own my problematicness on this morning, but
for sure. Let's
definitely. Okay, good.
Welcome so to everybody. I see so many beautiful faces. Hi, Deb, Augustine, who else? Heather, Kelsey. Hey, y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining us. So Devin and I were just doing a little introduction. Before we get too far into it, Dev, you want to kind of like lay the kind of ground rules and the flow of things? Just some little housekeeping stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to this type of stuff, I know it's a lot of people. So if you're not talking or you're not directly in like a 1 or 2 person conversation, if you can keep your mic muted. I know we're in the technological age, so if any of us get kicked off of the call, we'll just stop the conversation, and then whenever that person gets back, then we'll start back to where the thought was at the initial beginning of the conversation. And then just to get started, I'll have everybody go around the room, introduce themselves, say their title, just so we can get the ball rolling. And then once we have that, and we'll just start going into the different questions that we have. And then we'll pretty much lean on y'all to lead the conversation, give us the information, and just enlighten everybody on what the Crown Act entails. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's good. I just want to make sure that this, we're organized and that we can have the best audio quality and that we can all hear each other and make sure all the information comes across. So, once again, thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to get into this and get re-educated, because that's what the show is all about. Re-educating ourselves on a lot of the things that we know about, that we experience, but ways that we can elevate us as a community and push causes that are so important forward. So let's get into it. Who wants to start as far as introductions? Where y'all at?
I think we should have our students that just finished the most tumultuous year that academia and just general life has ever seen. Mm-hmm. I would love for our students to go first.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelsey Barnes, and I'm a student. So I'm just finished my first semester of my junior year. So, yeah.
Go, Kelsey. Welcome, Kelsey. Who else we got?
I think Augustine, I don't see. Do I see? Yeah, Augustine.
Thank you. My name is Agustin Leon Sainz, and I just finished the first semester of my senior year at Albuquerque High.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations. Everybody else want to chime in real quick and give us your name and, title and a brief introduction?
I guess I'll go. I'm Deb on your eBay. I am part of the COC and have been for a while now. So I am interested in the Crown Act and on the committee because, I've gone through a lot of things as a child, especially growing up in Albuquerque, going to Christian school my whole life. So it's been a lot. And I have 2 little boys. So it's important to me to make sure that their future is secure and, a little bit brighter than what I had to go through as a child. So that's why I'm here.
Beautiful. Nice to meet you, Deb. Nice to meet you. Is that what we say nowadays? Who's next?
Hi, I'm Heather Smith. I'm also part of the COC. I also am a Southern New Mexico advocate leader here. The Crown Act is very important to me. We've all had stories and we've all had, instances in our lives where we were discriminated against or talked down to or anything like that. So I would like to change that for the future generations and have some accountability for people who think that discrimination is okay in those forms, and to actually just educate, the populace and protect our people. So this is why it's important to me.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Woo, I am multitasking on devices because my phone is gonna die. Hi guys, I'm Erica. If you get another me in the waiting room, it's me. My name is Erica Davis Crump. I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm also a member of the COC. And when we're saying that, that means Central Organizing Committee for the New Mexico Crown Act. And it's just been a really beautiful experience. What I do for my day job is just communications for a couple of really dope organizations, Southwest Women's Law Center, shout out to them and the hard, beautiful work that they do, and New Mexico Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. And I am heading comms for the Crown Act, and it has been probably one of the highlights of my life to be a Black woman in New Mexico and see how we all have just, I mean, if you're from here, you know that like our community, I mean, we'll just talk right about it. If you're from here, you know our community has a lot of silos, you know, and it's really hard to stay on the same page, and it's hard to get this like sense of productive unity, if you will, across generations. And it's crazy because Rona has been 1,001 things, you know, and the one thing that I'm actually really stunned and grateful for is that because of Rona, this beautiful space was birthed. And I've endured a lot of hair discrimination myself. And just last year, my baby girl, who's 15, and I have a 12-year-old as well, he has a big old puff like me. And I've just been watching them go through the same things, you know, that people are real unapologetic about. So we're here to end that, you know, and make it, and put some policy behind our needs.
Well, thank you so much, Erica. And thank you all, like I said, once again for joining us. And I think this is a wonderful group of people to come together and talk about, like you said, some of those experiences that we're having, that we have all too often, that we've experienced coming up. And now, sadly, you know, the generation after us, you know, my daughter, you know, if you all have kids, our families are still experiencing it. So something has to be done about that. And so I'm so grateful to this group of people coming together to, you know, put together legislation that will widen protections, and hopefully, you know, as time goes on, widen people's like compassion and acceptance. And because that's really what it's all about, is, you know, the education and changing the minds and the hearts of folks, and sometimes forcefully if we, you know, are being real about it. Like, that's what, like, you cannot discriminate against people for the texture of their hair, before the way that their hair naturally grows out of their head. I don't know. I guess it just still boggles my mind, because it's like we're all humans, right? And our hair grows out of our head the way it grows out of our head. But we know that there's a long history of that, you know, in this country, you know, starting way back, you know, since the inception. And so, where to begin? I mean, I think that we should talk about, you know, how this group came to be, and what was the inception of the Crown Act, and what it really is all about. Can y'all give me kind of a summary of that and a rundown of that?
It's the best thing that's happened in 2020, honestly. My favorite, we all live on Zoom, all of us. And so when you have a meeting that you can go to, that you're not like, oh my God, you know, yes. This is the highlight, and I say this so regularly, and I know they know that I mean it. The team knows I mean it, that this is the best meeting of our week, because it doesn't feel like a meeting for a second. You know, our catch-ups turn into the Kiki sessions. our group chat is litty. It's so, and we support each other in such a big way. And it started because I would actually love to hand it over to Augustine, who is the reason that the Crown Act was even brought forth to one of our bill sponsors.
Awesome.
Sure. Thank you, Erica. So earlier this year, I was actually doing some research both for school and for a program I do at school, an extracurricular activity called Youth in Government. And that's like a mock government political debate program. And through my research, that's when I actually found out about the Crown Act. But that was like in the spring. But as time went on, especially after the murder of George Floyd and all the events during the summer of this year, I saw the way I could step in with my voice, as a non-Black voice, and use my privilege to give back to the community. Because as a non-Black person, I obviously benefit from the systemic oppression that, Black people struggle with. And so through that, I found the need to use my voice, and I actually emailed Senator Antoinette Sedillo Lopez about the Crown Act, and I wrote like an entire page about why we needed to pass it and all of that. And she was super, super happy to start that. And with that, we promptly created a team, and that's how the COC was created. And so together with joyful collaboration with the entire community, and especially with all the Black women leaders in the COC who are really spearheading this entire effort, we have been able to create a really inclusive and beautiful legislation. And, at the end of the day, it's also like a statewide movement about Black empowerment, centering Black voices. And it's just been an incredible experience for me, seeing how I can be an ally in this movement. And yeah.
That's beautiful, Augustine. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, because something that Devin and I talk about so often on Reeducated is the parts that allies do play in creating change and helping us, and sometimes that means, like you said, using your voice and knowing when to kind of step back and center the Black voices on certain topics and certain issues. So, I think that that's amazing that you had the self-awareness and the compassion to, to use your voice in that way. And like you said, utilize your privilege to bring something to the forefront that's meaningful to your Black brothers and sisters. So we appreciate that so much. And tell us what, for because I think we're all kind of familiar with the purpose of the Crown Act, but for those who are not familiar at all, what is the main goal of the Crown Act for those that are listening that aren't quite familiar?
Ed, you want to take it?
So the reason why we are spearheading this and why it's important to us is the purpose of this is to ensure that people are not discriminated against based on the texture or the way protective style that they wear their hair in. So we want to make sure that, people in the workplace or people in schools are not discriminated against because of their hair or seen as unprofessional or less than because of their hairstyle and the way that their hair grows out of their head. And so it's really important for us because we've all been in those situations where we walk into a room and automatically people want to touch our hair, or they want to ask, is your hair clean because you've had it in braids for a few weeks? And so those kinds of things lessen our voice in those spaces. And we know that we have something to contribute, us and the generation after us. And so we need to be seen and heard for our talent and our intelligence rather than the way that our hair grows or the way that we choose.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing explanation, because there's already so many other ways, our skin, our, culture, the way we dress. There's so many ways that we're discriminated against. And I think that's what can be like so hurtful and so exhausting to us as a people. It's like, dang, like I just want to braid my hair. I want to display my culture. And I can't do that sometimes and go into these spaces and show up the way that I want to show up, and that be okay, and not be sent home, from work and lose pay, not be able to, wrestle in a match. I mean, I don't know if you all have seen we've seen the videos, where they're cutting my heart. Literally, just even talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps, because when I saw that video of them cutting off this young brother's locks before that match, something in me was just like, I could cry right now just thinking about it, because I think, yet some people might hear this conversation and say, oh, well, that's extreme. But we cannot, downplay or minimize the fact that those emotions, we experience those emotions just as powerfully from like the microaggressions, the constant microaggressions, and the constant, being made to feel like we have to explain ourselves and explain why we should be accepted. We have to fight like that. You know what I mean? It just takes so much energy. So, I can go ahead, Erica.
All of that. And,
and
one of the things that, to give it some other context, shout out to, again, we are going to do this a lot, is just refer and say shout out to our COC, because when I tell you, there's a video, Danny, I can't wait to send it to you. The crew knows what I'm talking about, but it's a young man talking about Black women change the world. And we really do. But the COC out here has created one sheet with all the facts that you just mentioned. And this is actually a piece of legislation, one of the few pieces of legislation that is for us by us. I was on Twitter the other day and I found out that the 90s kids didn't know what FUBU meant, and I felt old. So I was like, they didn't know? What is that? But one of the things that this is a nationwide legislation. When we do pass the crown here in New Mexico, we will be state number 7. New Orleans, I found out just this week, New Orleans just passed to the crown in their city, which is beautiful. And one of the things that we have been so blessed to do is be in joyful collaboration with Dove and the Joy Collective. Now, I don't know if you remember, for context, a while ago, was it like a year or two ago, when Dove had that really terrible ad that when a Black woman went to change, she was in a white lady.
Yes, I do. Like these things, we see it, right? And we're like, oh, there they go again. But
this is their direct response, their restorative justice. They literally, there's this thing that's kind of circulating for me in healing work and therapy work is the best form of an apology is changed behavior. And so they literally, the one thing that I've been so proud about our group and being able to be connected to such huge national spaces. Delegate Stephanie Smith in Maryland spoke to us because she passed the crown out there. And the one thing that she said in A Seat at the Table for our non-Black accomplices that we held, she was like, if Maryland needed this, where 1 in 3 folks are Black, how much more do you think New Mexico is going to need this? And so one of the things that happened with that really crazy, terrible ad was Dove was like, let's do some research, right? Let's do some research on discrimination, specifically hair discrimination, and how can we support that? And that's really huge because passing policy in this country for Black folks, as we have seen with I don't even want to call them ancestors. I mean, with our elders, it's not that far behind us. Passing legislation for us and for our liberation is difficult. And so you were absolutely right. But let me see, it says 1.5 times more Black women are 1.5 times more likely to be sent home from the workplace because of their hair, 3.4 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional, and 30% of Black women are more likely to be made aware of a formal workplace appearance policy compared to their non-Black counterparts. Now, we're also going to put this into the Human Rights Act for New Mexico, and we're going to put this in the Education Act to protect our K through 12 babies. I worked with Devin for a while when he first came on to Office of African American Affairs, and one of the things that we both were working toward was the mentorship program. And just in 2020, in February 2020, before the crazy shutdown, we got a call for one of our students, a 7th grader, no, 8th grader, because my daughter's a 9th grader. One of my 9th grade, my daughter's a freshman this year, and last year in middle school, they actually sent a young woman home until she would take her hair out.
So what? Pause.
Yeah.
What, just so we can, because I feel like we need to get into these like nitty gritty incidents in order to fully illuminate and, portray what it is that we're dealing with here. In that specific instance, what do you know what the hairstyle was? It was a protective style?
It was a protective style. It was a protective style, and the color wasn't as it was. It was a protective style, and it was deemed as distracting. And I really want to get to, I just wanted to clarify, because the thing with these incidents is that it happens to our youth. We just don't hit the public the way that so many others do. For that young boy with the locks in the sporting incident, the way, these handbooks are outdated, they are discriminatory. And most of all, I found out that students make them. And who's in student government? Not our Black babies. So there's just a lot of what we have included. And the other pieces is that this act is the most inclusive Crown Act. We have included hijabs, burqas, just more inclusive than the Crown Act has seen before, but it's also still in direct fidelity to the Crown Act that has been nationwide, which is really great. But we have instances from our student leaders. I would love for Kelsey to share an instance, but they go under the radar, and it's so sad because you walk around with the trauma of these aggressions,
right.
and you're supposed to just stomach it. So like, those are the ones that I've directly advocated for. I've gone through with my daughter. I'm a grown woman, and I think all of us here that have ever had our braids in or ever changed our hair for the next day at work have had somebody grab at our hair. The adultification that happens for our youth. But I would actually really love to hear from Kelsey, because our students, as they have been pouring in, Augustine, again, massive shout out to you, because he's linked us to a majority of the BSUs that are at the table with us. From LaQueva, they weren't able to make it this morning, to Albuquerque High. Miss Kelsey is an intern for Miss Tori, and like our youth are doing so many beautiful things, but there's that piece of discrimination and implicit bias that their teachers still put on them. So Kelsey, can you share something that maybe happened?
Yeah, there's definitely times when I've gone into school and I've straightened my hair, and they're like, well, did you cut it, or what happened to your hair? And all these little microaggressions. Or when I wear braids, oh, did your hair grow that quickly? And it's not just from the students. I've had teachers tell me this as well in front of the entire class. And it's like, how do you want me to respond to this? And even one time when I was so fed up from the day, after a bunch of kids told me, oh, did you grow your hair that quick? Did you grow your hair in 2 days? I just had to tell the teacher, no, I put water on it or something when I switched my hairstyles. And this continues to happen. And a lot of times in those, like Erica was saying, in the dress codes, they just deem it as, well, your hair can be distracting. So because I wear my hair like this, it's distracting to everyone else. And I know when I do my hair, if I see a hairstyle on Pinterest, I'm like, oh, I want to try this. My mind sometimes, and I hate to say this, but my mind sometimes goes, well, what is everybody else going to think? Because the only acceptable hairstyles for me is when I have it down. And of course, there's privilege with having hair that's not 4C, because I know they get it a lot worse. But it's, well, if I wear my twist out to school, what are they going to think? Even if I put time into my twist out, or if I want to do braids in the front and have the rest curly, it's what is everybody else going to think? Because then I'm perceived as ghetto. I'm perceived as, oh, she's just from the hood, and all of these different things. And they continue to have this behavior and say these different things. And I think the little things about discrimination that happen in schools, but it matters. Kids,
absolutely,
they feel it. So this is a way to attack that. And I think when you look at discipline records and you see that in some schools it's 4.9%, 4.9 times higher for Black students to get suspended. Well, you're like, of course, some of that's implicit bias, but then their hair is distracting. The clothes they wear is distracting. And that's all reasons for them to get suspended. And this is just a way to attack some of that. Of course, we're not going to hit all of it right now, but this is a way for us to get to it. And I think for Black students in schools, they see this and they're like, this is what's needed. This is something that's helping me. And it's not it's not therapy, but it's something, and it's making students feel better.
Yeah, making students feel heard and feel seen and feel safe. I mean, I don't think that that's too much to ask. I don't think that's unreasonable to, level the playing field so that when our students go into school, this is supposed to be, I mean, they're in school a lot of times more, than they're with us. And if they're going to a place that, every day in and day out, I mean, imagine what that does to our youth mentally, emotionally, developmentally, that they're constantly having to, defend themselves and educate grown people You know what I mean? Like that is going to have, and it has had far-reaching impacts on our community as a whole, on people as individuals, on students. They're there to learn and to get their education and to get the tools they need to chase their dreams and to become whatever it is they want to become in this world. And they're stepping into a space, like you said, where now you're having to do mental gymnastics when you want to just do your hair. Like you shouldn't be having to do all that. That's too much, for us to have to bear the brunt of that. Like I said, that mental exercise that we have to go through every time we want to just style our hair.
Right.
And then to, dare I touch on, the gaslighting that happens once we, face these microaggressions and the discrimination. And then now it's, oh, you're getting an attitude, you're getting disrespectful because you want to speak up for yourself and you want to have a voice. And now, you're being gaslit and made to think, or you're having these stigmas attached to you that you're, like we do, it happens to us. We're angry, we're, mouthy, we're attitudinal, we're all these things when
we take accountability as an attack. And because it's gone on for so long, like it's back in the, and we have to think generationally, right? Like there is the generation that had to conform to save themselves. We don't sit in our space and not honor our own aunties, our elders. We don't sit back and be like, they got that perm, whatever. Like we don't do none of that. But there is just this understanding of what each of us have gone through, and you can see, like, for like me and Deb's babies, you can see that we're really allowing this natural art, their natural hair, to kind of be like, like you can just see the changes. Because once upon a time, when you would speak up, that would mean losing your job. That would mean actually, being literally, physically in danger, or maybe even financially in danger if you're getting sent home from work, And the biggest thing too that I know we want to speak to, and I actually also want to get to Heather, because Heather's in the South where there's more of us, but it's still deeply problematic. But the other piece is too, like, we know, I forgot what I was going to say, it was right there, but we know that, we just know that there's a change that's coming, and there's a TED Talk out that says this, it's like Beyonce taught me about racism or something. It's absolutely wonderful as a Beyonce fan, but
give me the link.
I know, but she talks about what it takes to be considered. This wonderful mind, Black woman, she talks about what it takes to be considered a master at something, and every 10,000 hours that you have under your belt of practice makes you an expert. Not just New Mexico, but our nation they are masters at the insidiousness of racism. And I mean, come on, 400 years, 10,000, what does that translate to? So when we do, hold people accountable, I've been in that space where I'm holding someone accountable, and I've literally been like pulled to the side, pulled in an office, and it's like, and had to actually, how many times have we had to apologize, for what someone, for the harm we've gone through? And so this, like, and just to speak to, again, I definitely want to hear from Heather and her story, because there's the intersection of being a Black American at the intersection of being LGBTQ plus, being or being non-binary. Like there are these intersections that our siblings may not be safe with just because of how they choose to express. And that's what I was going to say, is that when we do it, it's considered ghetto, right? But when it's on Kylie Jenner, when Kylie Jenner puts on Bantu knots, or Lord, we lost it with Adele. We was trying to Adele.
I was just about to say Adele.
Tried to keep her at the cookout, but she showed up with, the great value mess, hot mess.
She said a great value mess. And I know it because they will do it and they will take it and it's Bo Derek braids.
And it's avant-garde. And we've done it when it's come from us. I will never forget, I worked at Blue Cross and I have braids. And my really poor old white man, I love this man so much. But he was like, you got braids like Bo Derek. I was like, no, Bo Derek has braids
like me.
Like we get braids. What are you doing? And for the bases on the call, that is a white lady that got Fulani braids once.
And everybody just loved it and they just went wild. And
it went from being like the beautiful braids that we have, that we do, to being Bo Derek braids. But yeah, sorry, Heather, can you sound off on like what it's like in the South where we're seeing more, but it's still so conservative still?
Yes, please.
Yes. Well, as you all know, Southern New Mexico is purple. So we do have in the cities we're a little bit more blue, but agriculturally and outside of the cities we're very red. So it's a little bit more difficult down here as far as like swaying our electors, because they're in, kind of trying to navigate between two different parties. And Black people don't really make up a large part of our population down here. It's more up north where we have bigger concentrations of Black population. But that being said, we've made pretty big strides, especially at the collegiate level. At the collegiate level, ASNMSU has passed the crown in their government, their student government. So they're already ahead of the game in the smaller area, but they're ahead of the game as far as making that protection for the students there for themselves. They created this resolution and passed it before we even, were able to even get to them. They had already done that. So I'm very proud to say that, the students of NMSU, the BSAs are, on top of those things as far as protecting Black students. And they also have other things in there. They have like other legislation in their resolution, which, also protects the discriminatory acts for skin color or anything else that may protect Black students. We have a lot of support from barbers, cosmetologists. And as far as they go, it's very important for them because we don't have a lot of Black, barbers or anything like that, but we do have a lot of people who know that this is going to be an uphill battle, and they have clients and they have people who have, kind of told them about the discriminatory practices that people have in schools or in, places of work. And they've kind of like, kind of try to protect all of us as far as, coming together in a place where we really don't have a lot of backing with the public. So since we have such a small population, like Erica was saying, it's the protections are really needed as far as like in the southern parts of us, like I think that we get probably discriminated against more in schools and things like that, because we're few and far between. Anytime I was in school, I was probably like the only Black kid, in the class or, and in the grade. So it's been kind of tough, but I'm so proud of our youth. I'm so proud of everybody at the collegiate level. Passing the crown here and in these small places, just like, cities are trying to pass the crown, like Akron, Ohio, Kansas City. And so when we see support like in smaller places and we can grow, I think that's where we really will be able to shine. Because federally, Afros